alone at the small cafe inside the alien spaceport. He had just arrived after a long trip, and all he wanted was something hot to drink and a quiet moment to think. The spaceport was full of life. Aliens of every shape and color walked by, their voices mixing into a strange, endless murmur. John was used to seeing aliens now, but even after years of travel, the sight never felt normal. He was an outsider here, a human among hundreds of species. As he lifted his cup, he noticed someone watching him. It was a tall woman, her skin faintly glowing under the bright lights. Her eyes were large, silver, and unblinking. She moved with purpose, as if she knew exactly where she was going, and she was walking straight toward him. John shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He had no friends here, no connections, no reason for anyone to approach him. The woman stopped at his table and, without asking, sat across from him. In her hands, she carried something wrapped in soft cloth. She leaned closer, her voice low and urgent. "Hold this," she said, pushing the bundle toward him. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were sharp and serious. John blinked, confused. "What is it?" he asked. The woman's silver eyes seemed to flash. "An egg," she whispered, "until it hatches." Before John could answer, she placed the bundle in his hands. He felt warmth through the cloth, like holding a living thing. It pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. A strange energy passed through his fingers, making the hair on his arms stand up. He opened his mouth to protest, but when he looked up, the woman was already gone. She moved so fast, disappearing into the sea of travelers, leaving him alone with the strange egg in his hands. John stared at the bundle, his heart racing. This had to be a mistake. He didn't want it. Whatever it was not his problem. He stood up, clutching the egg awkwardly, and looked around the busy terminal. But the woman was nowhere to be seen. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. "Hey, you there!" a voice shouted. John turned, and to his shock, several guards in dark armor were pushing through the crowd. They weren't looking at the woman, they were looking at him, at the egg in his arms. "Guardian!" one of them barked. "Step forward, Guardian!" John froze. "Wait, no, you don't understand," he began. But the guards were already surrounding him. Their weapons were not raised, but their eyes showed respect, even fear. People in the spaceport had stopped to stare, whispering among themselves. John felt a chill run down his spine. "I don't know what this is," he said quickly. "Someone gave it to me. I don't even want it." The tallest guard shook his head. "It is too late, human," he said, his voice deep and final. "You accepted the egg, and by ancient law, you are now its father." The words made no sense. John laughed nervously, thinking it was a mistake. "Father? No, I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm just a traveler. I don't even live here." But the guard only bowed his head slightly. "The law does not make mistakes," he said. The egg pulsed again in John's hands, glowing faintly through the cloth. It was warm, alive, and for a moment it seemed to respond to his panic. He almost dropped it, but some instinct made him tighten his grip. He didn't want it, yet he couldn't let it fall. It was fragile, delicate, and strange. And somehow it already felt connected to him. The guards formed a protective circle around him. "Come with us," the leader said. "You must be taken to the Chamber of Guardians. The child must be kept safe." John shook his head in disbelief. "This is crazy. I don't want to be part of this," he said. But the leader's silver eyes locked on his. "You have no choice," he said. "The moment you touched the egg, the bond was sealed." The crowd whispered louder now. Some bowed their heads as John passed, as if he was suddenly important. The strange request. John sat alone at the small cafe inside the alien spaceport. He had just arrived after a long trip, and all he wanted was something hot to drink and a quiet moment to think. The spaceport was full of life. Aliens of every shape and color walked by, their voices mixing into a strange, endless murmur. John was used to seeing aliens now, but even after years of travel, the sight never felt normal. He was an outsider here, a human among hundreds of species. As he lifted his cup, he noticed someone watching him. It was a tall woman, her skin faintly glowing under the bright lights. Her eyes were large, silver, and unblinking. She moved with purpose, as if she knew exactly where she was going, and she was walking straight toward him. John shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He had no friends here, no connections, no reason for anyone to approach him. The woman stopped at his table and, without asking, sat across from him. In her hands, she carried something wrapped in soft cloth. She leaned closer, her voice low and urgent. "Hold this," she said, pushing the bundle toward him. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were sharp and serious. John blinked, confused. "What is it?" he asked. The woman's silver eyes seemed to flash. "An egg," she whispered, "until it hatches." Before John could answer, she placed the bundle in his hands. He felt warmth through the cloth, like holding a living thing. It pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. A strange energy passed through his fingers, making the hair on his arms stand up. He opened his mouth to protest, but when he looked up, the woman was already gone. She moved so fast, disappearing into the sea of travelers, leaving him alone with the strange egg in his hands. John stared at the bundle, his heart racing. This had to be a mistake. He didn't want it. Whatever it was not his problem. By an egg he never asked for. Inside, fear and confusion twisted in his stomach. He wanted to throw the egg away, run back to his ship, and forget this nightmare. But every time he thought about letting go, his hands refused to move. The warmth of the egg had sunk into him, as if it had chosen him, and the strangest thought kept echoing in his mind. What if this thing really is alive? What if it really is mine? The spaceport doors closed behind them as the guards led John deeper into the alien city. The egg pulsed steadily in his arms, like a second heartbeat. And for the first time, John wondered if his life would ever be the same again. The alien law revealed. The guards led John through the crowded streets of the alien city. Tall towers of crystal rose above him, glowing with shifting colors, and strange flying machines moved silently in the sky. The city looked beautiful, but John could not enjoy it. All he felt was the weight of the warm, pulsing egg in his arms and the heavy stares of people around him. Everywhere they walked, aliens stopped and whispered. Some bowed their heads as if John was holy. Others spat on the ground as if he was cursed. He could hear fragments of their voices, words in alien languages. But one word came clear again and again. Father. 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 John's throat went dry. He had never felt more out of place. He wanted answers, and soon he got them. The guards took him into a massive building at the center of the city. Its walls were alive, glowing veins of light running across black stone. Inside was a hall so large it made John feel small. At the far end, sitting on high chairs of stone, were the elders. There were 5 of them, each older than time itself, their silver eyes burning like fire. When John entered, the guards knelt, but he remained standing, clutching the egg. He wanted to throw it down and walk away. But something in him held back. One of the elders, a tall figure with pale golden skin, leaned forward. "Human," the elder said, his voice echoing through the hall. "You carry the egg, therefore you are bound, by law, as its father." John almost laughed. It was too insane. "Listen, I didn't choose this," he said, his voice sharp. "Some woman shoved it into my hands and disappeared. I don't even know her name. I don't even know what's inside this thing." The elder's face remained calm. "That does not matter," he said. "The moment you accepted the egg, the ancient bond was sealed. The law is clear. No species, no council, no ruler can change it." John's stomach twisted. He tried to put the egg down on the floor, but the moment he lowered it, his arms froze, his fingers tightened. It was as if invisible strings held him, forcing him to hold on. The elders nodded knowingly. "You see," another elder said, her voice soft but stern, "it will not allow you to abandon it. The egg has chosen you, as much as the law has." John shook his head. "This is crazy," he muttered. "I'm not ready to be a father. I don't even have a family. I don't even have a home anymore. I'm just a traveler." The elder's eyes glowed brighter. You are more than that now, human. You are the guardian. And when it hatches, the child will look to you as father. Your choice does not matter anymore." The hall went silent, the weight of those words pressing down on John like chains. He looked at the egg, glowing faintly in his arms, and a thought crossed his mind. What kind of child could be inside? Human? Alien? Monster? The silence broke when another elder rose to his feet. He carried a long staff that pulsed with the same light as the egg. "Human," he said, "know this. You are not the first outsider to be chosen, but you may be the last. The one who carries the egg carries the future of you. Your people protect it, or our world will fall." John's heart pounded. "I never asked for this," he whispered, but his voice was weak. One of the guards behind him leaned forward and said quietly, "Fatherhood is never asked for. It is given, and it tests the soul." The words stung because deep inside, John knew something had already changed. He had only carried the egg for a short time, but the thought of losing it made his chest ache with fear. That was the most terrifying part. He didn't even want it, yet he couldn't imagine letting it go. The elders stood together now, their voices one. "From this day, John of Earth, you are the father under alien law. The Chamber of Guardians will be your home, and the egg will remain with you until it hatches. What happens then will decide not only your fate, but the fate of many worlds." The guards bowed again. John stood frozen, his mind racing, his arms trembling as the egg pulsed warmly against his chest. The title echoed in his head. Father by alien law, a role he never wanted but could not escape. And as the doors closed behind him, John realized with a chill, this was only the beginning. The burden of guardianship. The Chamber of Guardians was not a home. It was a prison dressed as a palace. Tall walls of glowing stone surrounded John, and the air smelled of incense and strange flowers. Soft lights floated in the corners, and silent alien attendants moved like shadows, watching him but never speaking. John was given a room, large and richly decorated, yet empty of comfort. Every corner reminded him that he was not free. The egg rested on a pedestal in the center of the chamber, cradled in a bed of soft, glowing fabric. But whenever John tried to step too far from it, the egg pulsed harder, tugging at something inside him, pulling him back. It was like an invisible chain between them. He had not chosen this, yet every hour made him feel more bound. The alien guards bowed to him now, calling him father, but the word felt heavy. He was not a father, he told himself. He had no child, no family. All he had was this fragile shell that glowed and pulsed, as if mocking him. At night, John tried to sleep, but the egg never let him. It hummed faintly, like a soft song, echoing in his bones. When his thoughts turned dark, the egg trembled. When he calmed, it glowed warmly. It was responding to him, reading him, learning him. John hated it, and yet he could not stop watching it. Something about the way it glowed in the dark made him feel responsible, as if, despite all his anger, he was the only thing keeping it safe. Days passed, and the burden grew heavier. The attendants brought him food, water, and books about the ancient laws. He learned that in alien history, guardians were revered, sometimes worshipped, but they were also targets. Others sought to steal or destroy the egg before it could hatch. The father's duty was not only to nurture, but also to protect. If the egg broke before its time, the father's life would end with it. John slammed the book shut the first time he read that line. "Perfect," he muttered. "Now I'm chained to a glowing rock, and if it dies, so do I." His words were bitter, but his chest tightened at the thought of the egg being harmed. He didn't want that, not because of his own life, but because some strange instinct whispered to him, "It is alive. It is waiting for you." One evening, as John sat near the egg, the chamber door opened and the guard captain stepped in, the same tall alien who had first called him guardian. He stood silently for a long time before speaking. "You are changing," he said. "When you arrived, you wanted to throw it away. Now you sit beside it like a father at a cradle." John glared at him. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "I don't want this." The captain tilted his head, silver eyes calm. "Want is irrelevant. Duty shapes the soul more than desire, and you are bound by both law and bond. The egg will test you. It already has." John turned to the egg, glowing softly in its cradle. He didn't want to admit it, but the captain was right. The egg had changed him, slowly, quietly, pulling at him in ways he didn't understand. That night, as he drifted into uneasy sleep, John dreamed. He saw a small figure, something half human, half alien, calling to him with a child's voice. "Father," it whispered. "Father?" John woke in a sweat, clutching his chest, his eyes darting to the egg. It glowed brighter than before, as if it had spoken to him in his dreams. The burden of guardianship was not only physical, it was inside his mind now. He was no longer just carrying the egg. The egg was carrying him. Threats and enemies, the city never slept. From the high windows of the Chamber of Guardians, John could see glowing towers and endless streams of alien ships flying across the night sky. But inside his chamber, there was only silence. Except for the heartbeat of the egg, he had begun to understand its rhythm. When the egg pulsed gently, it was calm. When it throbbed harder, it was afraid. And tonight, it beat like a drum. Fast and heavy. John frowned. He turned toward the pedestal, where the egg glowed faintly. Something was wrong. The doors of the chamber were locked, the guards were outside. But the egg's pulse grew stronger, almost shaking. John's instincts screamed, "Danger is near." A shadow moved by the window. John froze, then slowly reached for the staff the guards had given him. It wasn't a weapon he knew how to use, but it was better than nothing. The shadow slid across the glass, then vanished. Before he could move, the chamber doors exploded inward. 2 guards fell lifeless at his feet, cut down by something fast and brutal. Figures cloaked in black stormed inside, their faces hidden, their weapons glowing red. They didn't look at John. They looked at the egg. "Take it," one of them hissed. The egg shivered violently, glowing bright. In fear, John's chest tightened, and before he knew what he was doing, he stepped in front of it, staff raised. "You're not taking it," he growled, his own voice surprising him. The attackers laughed, a low, cruel sound. "Move aside, human. You don't even know what you hold." "I don't care," John said. "It's mine." The first assassin lunged, blade flashing. John swung the staff clumsily, but when it struck, the weapon erupted with blinding light. The attacker flew backwards, slamming into the wall with a scream. John stared at the glowing staff in shock. He hadn't known it could do that. The egg pulsed brighter, as if feeding him strength. The other attackers hesitated, but only for a moment. They charged together, weapons raised. John fought wildly, his arms moving faster than he thought possible. Every strike of the staff burst with light. Every swing defended the egg. It wasn't skill, it was instinct, guided by the bond. By the time the guards outside broke through and rushed in, the attackers were gone. Some fled, others lay unconscious on the floor. The chamber was in ruins, smoke rising from broken walls. John stood in the center, chest heaving, the glowing egg still safe behind him. The captain of the guards entered, silver eyes wide. "You fought like a guardian," he said quietly, almost in awe. John lowered the staff, trembling. "I don't even know how I did it," he muttered. The captain looked at the egg, still glowing in its cradle. "You did not fight alone," he said. "The egg chose to protect itself. Through you." John's hands shook as he looked down at them. The warmth of the egg still flowed in his veins, making his heart race. He realized something terrifying. The egg wasn't just a burden anymore. It was a part of him. And there were others out there who would never stop trying to take it. That night, as the chamber was repaired and the G-Durs boards doubled their watch, John sat beside the egg. He watched it glow faintly, calm again. For the first time, he whispered to it, almost against his will. "I don't know what you are," he said softly, "but you're mine, and I'll protect you." The egg pulsed once, slow and warm, like a heartbeat in answer. John closed his eyes. He was no longer just a man trapped by alien law. He was a father with enemies in every shadow. The egg begins to hatch. Days turned into nights, and nights into days. The Chamber of Guardians never truly slept. Guards patrolled the hallways, attendants moved quietly with food and supplies, and John stayed always within arm's reach of the egg. Since the attack, something had changed. The egg no longer felt like just a burden, it felt alive. When John touched it, he could feel faint movements inside, tiny shifts, as if something restless waited for release. The thought both comforted and terrified him. One evening, as the sky outside burned with 2 setting suns, John noticed a hairline crack across the shell. He froze, his breath catching. The egg pulsed, then the crack spread a little wider, glowing light leaking out like fire from a volcano. "Not yet," John whispered, his voice trembling. He didn't know why he said it, but he felt the child inside was listening. The egg trembled in reply as if it understood. When the attendants saw the crack, they hurried out of the chamber and returned with the captain of the guard. He looked at John, his silver eyes unreadable. "It is happening," he said. "The time has come sooner than expected." John's stomach nodded. "Too soon? What does that mean?" The captain placed a hand on the staff at his side. "It means the bond between you is strong. It is pulling the child to hatch faster. You are changing it, whether you wish it or not." That night, John couldn't sleep. He sat beside the egg, watching the cracks spread slowly. The glow lit up the chamber like a lantern, painting the walls in gold. Every so often, he swore he could hear faint sounds. From inside, a soft tapping, like knuckles on glass. Outside the chamber, the city was restless too. Rumors had spread, whispers carried through the streets. The human's egg is about to hatch. Some spoke in awe, others in fear. Enemies lurked in the dark, waiting. Inside, John felt the pressure growing heavier. The egg pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, faster, louder. It was almost too much. He pressed his palms against the glowing shell, trying to calm it. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm not leaving." The egg responded with warmth, flowing through his arms into his chest. For a moment, John felt peace. But then, in his mind, he heard a faint voice. Soft, fragile, yet clear. "Father." He pulled his hands away, heart racing. He looked around the room, but no one else reacted. The attendants were gone, the guards outside silent. The voice had not been real, or had it? He touched the egg again, and the warmth returned. The voice whispered once more, clearer this time. "Father. Soon." John staggered back, staring at the glowing cracks spreading across the shell. This was no ordinary child. It was already reaching for him before it was even born. The captain returned, carrying a ceremonial cloth. "The hatching will happen soon," he said, his voice heavy with meaning. "When it does, the child will recognize you first. It will know you as father. Your actions in that moment will shape its future." John felt his throat tighten. He wanted to scream that he wasn't ready, that this wasn't his choice. But deep down, he knew it didn't matter. The egg had already chosen him, the law had already bound him, and his own heart, no matter how much he denied it, had already begun to change. Hours passed, and the cracks widened. Strange energy filled the chamber, making the lights flicker. The attendants knelt in silence, chanting softly in a language John couldn't understand. The guards stood ready, their weapons drawn, for they knew enemies would come again. John sat closest to the egg, hands resting on it, feeling the life inside struggle to break free. The child's heartbeat merged with his own, and once again, he heard the voice in his mind, stronger now, no longer weak. "Father, I am coming." The egg shook violently, blinding light bursting through the cracks. The guards shielded their eyes, but John didn't move. He leaned closer, his face inches from the shell. His voice broke as he whispered, "I'm here. I'm waiting for you." With a final shatter, the egg split open, light flooded the chamber, and in the glow, John saw movement. Small hands, fragile limbs, silver eyes blinking for the first time. The child had come. The birth of the alien child. The chamber was filled with light. It poured from the broken shell like fire, golden and silver, dancing across the walls. John's eyes stung, but he couldn't look away. From inside the shattered egg, something small, fragile, and alive moved toward him. The child crawled out slowly, glowing skin wet and soft. Its limbs were thin, almost human, but its eyes, those silver eyes, shone with the same light as the elders. The attendants gasped and fell to their knees, whispering prayers. But John was frozen in place, unable to breathe, unable to move. The child looked around the chamber with wide, curious eyes. Then it turned to John. It wobbled on weak legs, then crawled straight into his arms as if it had always known him. And when its tiny hands touched his chest, the voice filled his mind again. Clear now, strong, certain. Father. John's throat closed. He had spent his life running, drifting from one world to another, never belonging. Now, in this impossible moment, a single word tied him to something greater than himself. He held the child close, trembling. It was warm, alive, fragile. Yet when he looked into its eyes, he saw trust, not forced trust, not by lay, but real. The chamber was silent except for the child's small breaths. Even the guards lowered their heads, their expressions softer. One of the elders stepped forward slowly. "It is done," he said, his voice filled with awe. "The bond is complete. The child has chosen you, as the law foretold." John shook his head, his eyes still locked on the child. "This isn't a law," he whispered. "This is real." The child's tiny hand clung to his shirt, refusing to let go. For the first time, John didn't want to let go either. But the peace lasted only moments. A sudden crash echoed through the hall. The great doors shook as if struck by a storm. Guards rushed forward, shouting, "They are here! The enemy has come again!" The child whimpered softly, its glow flickering. John held it tighter, his body moving on instinct. The egg had tested him. The bond had tied him. Now the world wanted to take it away. The doors burst open with fire and smoke. Dark figures poured into the chamber. More of the assassins, but stronger, armed with heavy weapons. They shouted in harsh voices, "The child belongs to us! Give it up!" The elders raised their staffs. The guards rushed forward, battle filling the air. But John stood apart, clutching the child. He could feel its fear pulsing through him. Its tiny voice whispered in his mind, "Father, protect me." John's heart pounded. He had no training, no plan, no reason to fight. But something inside him, something deeper than reason, ignited. He grabbed the staff the guards had given him. When his hand tightened on it, the weapon roared with light, brighter than ever before. The attackers froze for a moment, blinded. John stepped forward, the child in one arm, the staff in the other. "I said you're not taking it," he growled, his voice filled with fire he didn't know he had. The first assassin lunged, but John swung the staff, light bursting outward like a wave. The enemy flew back, armor cracking. The child in his arms clung tighter, but its glow strengthened, almost feeding his strength. One by one, the attackers tried to break through. One by one, John fought them back. He was no longer clumsy. His movements flowed like water, guided by the bond, guided by the trust of the small life in his arms. Every strike of his staff was not just for survival, it was for his child. By the time the smoke cleared, the floor was littered with defeated enemies. The guards stood stunned, the elders watched in silence, and John, chest heaving, still held the child close, its silver eyes looking up at him with absolute trust. The captain of the guard spoke softly, almost with reverence. "Humans, we thought you were weak, but you fight with the heart of a guardian." John lowered his staff slowly, but his grip on the child never loosened. He looked down at it, his voice breaking as he whispered, "You're safe. I won't let anyone take you." The child pressed its head against his chest, glowing gently. For the first time since he arrived in this strange world, John felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not fear, not emptiness, but belonging. And in that moment, John knew the truth. He was no longer just a human traveler, no longer just a man bound by alien law. He was a father, by choice, by bond, and by love. But he also knew this was only the beginning, for if enemies would risk their lives to steal the child now, what would they do once the child grew? A father beyond worlds. The chamber was still heavy with smoke. The glow of the egg's broken shell lit the floor like scattered stars. John stood in the center, staff in one hand, the newborn child in the other. His chest heaved with exhaustion, but his grip on the child never loosened. The guards cleared away the last of the attackers, dragging their bodies into the shadows. The elders whispered to one another, their silver eyes burning with concern. For if enemies were bold enough to strike here, in the Chamber of Guardians, then greater storms were coming. John sat down slowly, the child resting against his chest. It was so small, so fragile, yet when he held it, he felt stronger than he had ever been. The warmth of its glow seeped into his bones, calming the storm inside him. The captain of the guard approached quietly. "Father," he said, bowing his head, "you must leave this place. The chamber is no longer safe. The ones who want the child will not stop." John frowned. "Leave? To where?" The captain's silver eyes met his. "Anywhere beyond this city, beyond this world if you can, but you must keep the child alive. Its future is our future." John looked down at the small figure in his arms. It blinked up at him, its eyes glowing faintly. For the first time since his wandering life began, John realized he didn't care where he went. As long as the child was with him, that was enough. But fate gave him no time for peace. That night, as he prepared to leave, alarms rang across the city. The sky lit up with fire, enemy ships descending, black and sharp, blotting out the stars. The war had come to them. The elders gathered in the square, their staffs glowing, their voices carrying across the city. Protect the father, protect the child. But the people were afraid, their faith shaken. All eyes turned to John, the outsider, the human. He could feel their doubt pressing against him. What could one man do against armies? Even he didn't know the answer, but when the child stirred in his arms and whispered into his mind, "Father, don't be afraid," something inside him ignited. John rose, his voice loud and steady. "They think I'm weak, Beck. As I'm human, they think law is chains. They think fear will break us. But listen, fatherhood is not fear. It is not law. It is love. And love will make me fight until my last breath." The people listened, their whispers fading. The guards raised their weapons, their eyes burning brighter. For a moment, even the elders bowed their heads. In that moment, John was no longer an outsider. He was a leader. The battle began with thunder. Enemy ships broke through the city's defenses, soldiers pouring into the streets. John held the child close with one arm, the staff glowing in his other hand. He fought alongside the guards, every strike bursting with light. The child's glow merged with his, their bond making him unstoppable. The attackers called him mad, cursed him as human. But still he stood, still he fought, not for law, not for duty, for his child. When the battle was over, the sky was filled with smoke. The enemy was broken, their ships burning as they fled into the night. The city was scarred, but it still stood. And in the square, among the fallen and the living, John stood tall. The people gathered around him, bowing their heads. The elders approached, their voices heavy with respect. "You have done more than protect the child," one said. "You have given us hope. You have reminded us that love, not law, makes a true father." John said nothing, only looked down at the small life in his arms. The child's silver eyes stared back, full of trust. And for the first time in years, John smiled. A true smile, soft and real. The captain of the guard stepped forward, his voice steady. "Where will you go now, Father?" John looked toward the stars, endless and waiting. "Wherever I must," he said. "As long as the child is safe, that is where I'll be." The people cheered, their voices echoing through the city. And in that moment, John was no longer just a wanderer, no longer just a human lost in alien law. He was a father beyond worlds. As he walked into the starlit night, staff in hand, child against his chest, he knew his life would ever be his own again. It belonged to the small heartbeat in his arms. And somehow, that was the first thing that ever made him truly free. The end. Enjoyed the story? Like it and subscribe for more.